an institute called the Lancaster Institute for the Creative Arts. And so this is a body, a department, if you like, that's got design, film, fine art, architecture in it. And students can do major degrees, so they can major in a single subject, like fine art or design, or they can do combined degrees. So you can combine design with film, or fine art with film, or fine art with creative writing. So it's an opportunity to either specialize and do your degree in a single subject, or, and this is quite challenging, to do your degree spanning 2 subjects. All of the teaching is about the contemporary practices and theories of design, fine art, of film, or creative writing, or architecture. So all the work our students do practically in the studio is all contemporary, and the history and theory and contextual studies they do is all contemporary too. And ultimately our aim as a department is to get a better relationship between thinking about art and making art. And we do all of our history and theory to make our students sharper young artists, young designers, young filmmakers. So that's a sketch of what we are. Is that okay, Dan?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, hi, everyone. My name is not Dan. My name is Dom Grego, and I'm the International Recruitment Manager for the Southeast Asia region at Goldsmiths, University of London. So at Goldsmiths, you'll find sort of heritage alongside innovation and creative practice. We've been a part of the University of London for well over 100 years now. And we've been around for 125, so we're quite an old and prestigious university. We're quite small. We have a cohort of around 10,000 students, and most of them are pursuing creative programs, but all of our programs are sort of contemporary focused, and we offer degrees in the arts primarily, but also humanities, social sciences, and also some very creative computing programs as well. So things like digital arts, computing, animation, games, programming. Our students learn from kind of world-leading experts who are part of the faculty staff, but also practice tutors. You can see on the screen here that Goldsmiths is in London. We are in Zone 2 of London in South East, in what is actually a very residential part of the city. It's a campus university, so it's a really nice way to integrate yourself within what is a very big and busy and what can be quite an intimidating city. It has a lovely little community and campus bubble. So really the institution is nicely situated for you to take advantage of everything that the City of London has to offer in terms of creative programs. We've got very prestigious design, fine art departments, but we also offer things like history of art, music, theatre and performance, and there's a real focus on interdisciplinary study. I think that might be too many syllables, but yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much, Dan.
Thank you very much, Dom, and thanks, Jerry. And then if I can get my slideshow to work. I'm from Montfort University, and we're based in Leicester, which is about an hour north of London. I'm also an alumni of the university, so I graduated 6 years ago now. Time flies, so hopefully I can answer any of your questions related to the student side of studying. Something about Leicester is we're very convenient located, so our campus is right in the middle of the city centre. And that means where your accommodation will be, which is guaranteed for overseas students coming to the UK, will be 2 minutes away from where your building is, where you'll study, which will be 2 minutes away from the town centre. We've got 2 universities in Leicester, so it makes it a very student-friendly city and very affordable as well. And I won't go into too many details of what's on screen, but you can see some of our notable achievements. We're very good for employability. Last week we won an award for the best careers and employability service, so about getting a job, making sure that you've got the required skills and required CV in order to get the career you want after you graduate. A lot of our academics will come from industry, so they will be able to help you with networking and connecting you with the relevant industry, whether that be in the UK or around the world. We also offer different schemes like our DMU Global program, which ensures that you can go abroad as part of your studies. So there's no limit on that. We give you bursaries of up to £400, and as part of your course, you will go to other countries in the world to kind of learn about your course in a different country. So yeah, that's an overview of all of the universities, and I'll leave this up. This is the contact details of everyone from the international office. So we're all here to support you with your application, and helping you really secure your place on whoever you decide. Hopefully it's one of us three, whoever you decide to come to. So now we're going to go into the questions. Again, please, if you could just put which country you're coming from, and also what course you're interested in studying in the chat box. We can make sure we tailor our answers towards those countries. I can also already see that we've got students from Malaysia joining, so welcome, and also students from Korea who are interested in fashion design. So welcome to you, welcome Grace, welcome in quota as well. So we'll crack on with the questions. Like I say, please do keep the questions coming. But firstly, I'll ask Jerry, what is a portfolio, and what main advice can you give to someone who's submitting one?
Okay, so I'm an admissions officer for the art program, and I mean, this year I've seen sort of 300 portfolios, and that's typical year in, year out. So I think I've seen exceptionally good portfolios and not so great ones over the years. And a portfolio really is a gathering of the best of a student's work. But amongst the best, for me, I think there should be a mix. There should be a mix of experimental work, of thinking beyond what you're perhaps capable of, which might include things that are on the borderline between success and failure. So it also should have your best work, your most knockout work. So it should be a mix of experiment, playfulness, stuff you've never tried before, and then things that you're really good at, really skilled at. Equally, for us in design, in fine art particularly, and in film, what we like to see is a breadth. So from the conventional and traditional to the experimental, for sure, but also if you're a designer or an artist, you need to be working in different media. So for us, a portfolio can have small digital films in it. It can have 3D work. It can have painting, drawing, fashion design, product design. So a range of approaches, a range of media, and a range of attitudes between conventional, skillful, and experimental and risky. So that would be a good portfolio. But there are lots of other things a portfolio could have as well. But perhaps I'll let Dom pitch in.
Yeah, sure. That's fantastic information there, Jerry. Most of that would apply to most programs at Goldsmiths. At Goldsmiths, the only programs that require a portfolio are fine art and design, and they do have different portfolio, different formats for those portfolios, different number of images, and we are looking for slightly different things. So as Jerry said, whilst there are some rules that kind of carry across portfolio preparation generally, it is important that you check the specific requirements of your portfolio submission for the program that you are applying to. I'd agree with breadth, in particular if you're applying to design at Goldsmiths. We love to see students who have moved away from certain mediums and experimented, but for fine art, for example, we're really looking for, we only ask for 12 images at Goldsmiths, which is not very many. So we're really looking for students to kind of establish themselves as an artist, as a visual artist, your identity as a visual artist to a certain extent in your portfolio. So it's more thematic than perhaps the design portfolio. The two things I always recommend are that it's really important to show development of concept or conceptual development. So your ideas. So we like to see sketches, we like to see part of your process in your portfolio submission, but also we like to see technical development as well. So you might include some photography, for example, as part of a portfolio. I always use the example of digital photography or film photography. If you take a picture of the same image with your phone, and then you present two images, so one taken with a camera and one taken with a phone, and you've done some post photography work, so editing work, for example, on your final image, we can really clearly see your technical ability then when we're looking at those images.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both. Yeah. And I completely agree with both of you said around that, making sure that what you submit is for you and it's not kind of generic. My main bit of advice is the academics want to see your personality, and they want to see what you've done in the past and how you've developed an idea, developed that concept, and kind of and how you've come to that final conclusion. And we've got at DMU a whole host of degrees in our art design faculty, and what we've done is we've prepared a portfolio advice document for each of those different subjects, which has been written by the program leader. So I do recommend, if you're interested, to look on our website for those, because it kind of outlines what the program leader is looking for and looking for from you. Similar to the other panel guests, around 15 pieces we look for. Sometimes we see a portfolio that has too many pieces, whereby students think that they just want to submit all of their work. That's not what we normally advise. We normally say, right, have a look at what your best work is, what you're most confident in submitting, and what you're passionate about, and what you're show us what you're interested in, because sometimes there's a few courses which may be similar, especially around our fashion. In our fashion school, we've got fashion design, but we've also got textiles, contour fashion. Actually, what might happen sometimes is you submit a portfolio, and then our program leader will look at it and go, actually, the course that you've applied for, you might be suited to another course. And then what we would do is have that conversation with you and discuss, okay, this is why we feel like you might be suited to another course, and here's why. And then you can make that decision on what you decide. The next question is around idea development, and I'll start with you this time, Dom. In terms of we spoke about idea development, should students include sketchbooks, mood boards, and kind of experimentation as well in terms of their idea development in their portfolio?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we'll all agree that 3 years at university, you're expected to develop somewhat in your practice. So it's important to bear in mind that universities aren't looking for the finished article. We're not looking for a polished visual artist or professional designer for our bachelor programs. We're looking for ideas, we're looking for concepts, for innovative kind of approaches to design, for what other things you would bring into your creative practice, whether those are kind of social or environmental, ecological ideas, as you mentioned, Dan, things that you're passionate about. So we don't need to see finished pieces all the time, but we also really like to see how your ideas develop from an initial concept to a finished piece. So I would always recommend students include sketches, maybe sort of photographs of inspiration. If you're inspired by the natural environment, for example, to create a piece, then you can show an image of the natural environment or the thing that has sparked that idea in you. So yeah, it's really important to show your working methods.
Perfect. And same to you, Jerry. What kind of idea development do you like seeing?
Well, I agree with Dom that things like notebooks and sketchbooks are really important. There are a number of things that a sketchbook tells the person reviewing the portfolio. And three principal things that a student's personal sketchbook will tell me is that they're independent. This is their personal thing. It's not related to their international baccalaureate. It's not related to their A-level or any other program that they're doing. It's personal to them. They've chosen to carry a sketchbook, to keep a sketchbook, and to use a sketchbook. And what that does, I think, is it demonstrates independence, independent working. You're working outside of the requirements of a school or college. And that's really important for universities. When you come to the UK and you do a creative arts program, independent working, being a self-starter and having the kind of the energy to go and do things yourself outside of the teaching is fundamental, really, to your development. So that's one of the things a sketchbook or a notebook or a visual diary shows. The other is, as you said yourself, Dan, nobody wants to see the generic. We want to see personality, character. We want to see very, very particular ideas, even if they're idiosyncratic, slightly bonkers. We want to see them. So sketchbooks, personal sketchbooks, they're private. You can do whatever you want in them, and they often elicit from the young artist really interesting ideas. So that's the second thing a sketchbook does. Finally, curiosity. If you keep a sketchbook for like a whole year, a little A6 sketchbook in your handbag, in your rucksack, in your pocket, what you're going to be doing is looking at the world, thinking, should that be in my sketchbook? Should I get my sketchbook out? So you'd be exercising creative curiosity. And one of the things that's really good for is it helps you to train yourself to be alert all the time, alert to ideas, to images, to influences. So for us, any kind of visual diary, sketchbook, notebook, you know, even a brain dump book, they are brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And in terms of a portfolio should be looked at as an opportunity and not something to be scared of, but something to show your talent and your personality. And yeah, it's not something that sometimes students, I'm not sure if students, if you're interested in studying this September or next September, but it should be produced over time. And it doesn't have to be something whereby you find out you need to submit a portfolio and you do it in a week. Over time is much better because then you can pick and choose what you include in it. For example, in one of a good product design portfolios I saw recently was it started with actually a bit of research, and it started with the student actually.
Oops.
Seem to have lost Dan there.
And frozen for a moment.
We have got a couple of questions in the chat actually, Jerry, which perhaps I could put one of those to you, and then give answering it a go myself. But one of the interesting questions that we've just had come in is, do you think the pandemic has changed the design trend in general? And I suppose we could expand that a little bit, couldn't we, and think about fine art as well in that. But how do we think that the last year has affected those creative practices?
I think in terms of universities, that's really difficult to answer, because degree programs are they're set by a curriculum, and then they run and they get reviewed. And so the pandemic will require us all to step back and review the content of our degrees, the topics that we put in our modules. So I think over time, the pandemic, as with other major crises, social and political and environmental crises, are asking us to do. So I think it's a matter of wait and see. But certainly I get a sense that in design from my colleagues, people are thinking much more about design for society rather than product design. So it's much more about thinking about service design, like how can we design, say, hospitals or railways or railway stations so that people can get through them more efficiently, so that we can widen the offer of, say, public services to a greater number of people. So I think I get the sense that certainly for us at Lancaster, that kind of design, which is perhaps more in design management or design thinking on a much more structural level, that may be one of the ways in which design moves. So of course that we're all going to need tables, chairs, cars, and everything else. But in one sense, the pattern for that kind of design is already set. And what we see sometimes, and I'm not being critical, are just versions of a design that already exists. But maybe one of the great challenges, both of climate crisis and of pandemic, is we're actually being asked to design for entirely new contexts. So whilst I'm not a designer, that's what I sense might happen in the future. But because universities are big institutions and degree programs take time to adjust, I think we'll see this kind of stuff gathering pace over the next 3, 5, and 10 years.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, actually, Jerry. I think at Goldsmiths, we've long had a kind of innovative, so at Goldsmiths, we don't have siloed design programs. There's no fashion or graphic design. So we ask students to come together in the first year and to explore a few different areas of design, to work with students who are coming from backgrounds with different specialities, and to sort of emulate maybe how it might work in a design practice where you need to bring in external expertise, or you need to work with a textiles expert as a furniture designer, for example. But also there's a real focus on kind of social or environmental impact of design, and really how design is form and function, but also increasingly now, as you identify, it's kind of about solving problems, new problems that are contemporary issues, that are things that face the world today and tomorrow. Yeah, as you said, Jerry, we've seen a lot of chairs over the years, and it's fantastic to see students who are looking at things like user experience, or I remember seeing one amazing project a couple of years ago in a degree show where a student had made a table out of reclaimed wood in Hackney in East London, but that table was actually used as a centerpiece in a community space where people who were disadvantaged, who were without a kind of fixed home or were homeless, were coming in, learning to cook, sitting around that table, and then the table kind of moving around different boroughs in London, and it being a kind of a piece of design which aided social engagement and inclusion. So yeah, I think the focus of the design world is shifting a little bit, and I think that the last year has accelerated that, if anything. Hi Dan, welcome back. We just
sorry about that.
That's all right. We just answered one of the questions from the chat.
Yes, yeah, I saw that question. I had a question personally around students are asking from September, and I know it's quite fluid at the moment, but from September, what will teaching look like? Is it going to be a blended learning, or will it be more face-to-face learning? Jerry, is that something that you're aware of now?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The University of Lancaster has made a statement, a public statement, that as far as they are able, teaching will return to normal for October is the beginning of our term, our year. And so whilst we will hold all of the blended learning and online learning in reserve, they'll be on our reserves bench, if you like. Our intention, as far as possible at the moment, is to go back to face-to-face, in-person teaching for as much of the teaching and learning across all subjects, from mathematics to medicine to the creative arts, to go back to face-to-face, in-person teaching from the very beginning of the year. And that would include, we're a campus university, a single campus, a green space outside the city. So that would include all students who have accommodation on campus coming back to campus. Campus already has a testing center, and some of our students for whom face-to-face and in-person teaching has been crucial, like fine arts students, they've had access to their studios. And medical students who absolutely need, to be there with substitute bodies and things like that. They've already been on campus for a number of weeks towards the end of this term. And so they've been tested twice a week for COVID. And if they're clear, then they continue to access the resources that they need for their studies. So at the moment, we're inching towards opening up, and our ambition is that by October, the whole campus will be open for everybody, and 90% of teaching will be back face-to-face. But we'll hold all of this 18 months of experience of blended and online, we'll hold that in reserve, so that if something goes wrong again, then we've got all of that experience and technology and technique to bring out again.
Perfect. And Dom, is that similar with Goldsmiths?
It is indeed, yeah. So just to kind of make anybody who's joined aware, the UK has a roadmap at the moment for things essentially to be back to normal, and for there to be no social restrictions in late June, so June 21st. However, obviously this is a plan. It's hypothetical at the moment, and all of our universities have been following the advice of Public Health England and indeed government restriction, and that ultimately is what will define whether or not we're all able to have physical teaching on campus from September again. All universities, again, as Jerry says, and really comprehensively there outlined, have got sort of testing processes in place. We also have really limited access to the campus. So students are at Goldsmiths accessing studios on a sort of rotated basis, so that we have fewer students in spaces and we can adhere to social distancing regulations. There's alcohol gel everywhere on campus. It is all over the shop. We've all got sort of like one-way systems for moving around spaces. So universities moved very quickly last year to put all of these systems in place. And I'm sure Jerry and Dan agree. I think that the sector did an amazing job at adapting so quickly to make sure that everybody, staff and students, were as safe as possible on our campuses. Does that sound similar?
Yeah,
Dan?
yeah, completely the same. And some students on March 8th who did practical courses, including science and in art, were able to go back to campus to study some of their more practical sessions on campus. And yeah, the roadmap is really gave us optimism here in the UK, and we're looking forward to the 21st of June. But in terms of a vaccine program, it's been very impressive in the UK being rolled out, and all adults will be offered the vaccine by, I think it's July at the moment, but we're kind of ahead of that. And for students who are coming over from overseas, what happens is you'll be able to access the vaccine as well. So once you arrive, because you pay what's called an NHS surcharge, you'll get all of the facilities that a UK resident would in terms of access to healthcare. So you don't need to worry about that. So yeah, in terms of facilities, yeah, I think it's exactly the same. 95% of your classes will be back to normal, will be back to face-to-face. Some of your maybe larger scale lectures, if you do have them with maybe 50 or more people in there, will be moved online. And I think actually, like Jerry and Dom said, the academics and us who've worked at university have really enhanced the way we work online. So actually going forward, there's going to be a lot more that we do digitally, and that includes recording of lectures that you can watch back and things like that. I think everyone's become much more tech savvy. At the same time, we want to move back to that face-to-face learning, and especially for students in this webinar, all of you are interested in studying a practical subject. You don't want to be stuck on Zoom the whole time. You want to be, meeting people and getting out there. So that's what we're as soon as we can do that, we'll be putting that in place. And at the moment, it's looking good that September will be like that. Just one thing about if students require English, we do pre-sessional English that will stay online through the summer. You can, so it will be easy to access. We did it last summer, so we've got experience of delivering that. So that's the only course that will stay all of it online. Grace, thank you for the question. The question is, do we need to show how much knowledge and skills about the course we are applying to, or should we feel free to just express ourselves artistically? Dom, should students have that kind of be able to free themselves and express themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to find a balance. So you're trying to present yourself as a candidate for the course that you're applying for primarily. That is certainly what the personal statement is about. However, with your portfolio, that's your opportunity, as we were explaining, to think outside of the box, to demonstrate that you think more widely than just one discipline, and that you have innovative ideas. So we would definitely recommend that students use the portfolio to demonstrate their artistic expression, and use the personal statement to demonstrate the knowledge and skills that are required for the program. Again, we're not looking for the finished article. I would just say quickly, because we did have a question earlier as well from a student in Japan who was inquiring about foundation program. And I know that not all of our institutions offer a foundation program. Obviously, I'm going to now say that Goldsmiths offer an international foundation program for art and design, but there are lots available around the country. You can apply to them at different universities. But what that year is about is really, if you don't quite meet the entry criteria for the program, if your English is not where it needs to be in terms of joining the main degree program or a pre-sessional program, then foundation programs do exist at universities around the country. And although you would progress straight off that program onto one of our full degree programs at Goldsmiths, at the end of the first year of programs around the country, you are free to choose where you go on to study your degree. So that would include all of our institutions there. If you did a foundation in art and design, or an international foundation certificate somewhere in art and design, and then decided to go on to the full degree.
Thanks, Dom. And Jerry, same question to you. Does the student need to show skills about the course they're applying to, or should they feel able to express themselves artistically?
Well, I think it's a balance between focus on the subject, knowledge about the subject, knowledge about how that subject is framed and taught in the university. So focus on the subject and openness as a creative individual. So that sounds paradoxical, but basically, you know, if you're applying for a degree in illustration at a UK university, but your portfolio is very fine arty, then that might be a bit of a problem. You know, and equally, you know, if you're applying for, say, architecture, but your portfolio is all about, I don't know, automotive design, then again, there may be an explanation needed there. Equally, in the personal statement, I think admissions tutors and academics are looking to see if this student is beginning to engage with the subject. So are they going to, say, museums and to say design museum to look at design if they're applying for a design degree? Are they going to an archive or a gallery to look at, I don't know, paper-based drawing or painting if they're applying for a fine art degree? So there is a tension between demonstrating that you're really passionate, you're really interested, and you're beginning to gather the skills and understanding for your subject, and demonstrating that you're open to new experiences and to change and development, that you're teachable. So I would say, you know, that there is this kind of balance to be got in the portfolio, in the personal statement.
Yeah, I completely agree that the balance is a great word for what is required, and I won't go too much into a portfolio because I think all of the key points have been made. But yeah, personal statement, that is an opportunity again for you to showcase yourself in a different way. Tell us a bit more about your academic history, why you're applying for the course you are, why you're applying for the university you're applying to. Make it personal to that university. We can tell sometimes when you submit a personal statement that that's just changed the university name. What we want to do is you want to see more personality. We want to see for you to just tell us about yourself, so we can learn, we can see the portfolio, we can see the personal statement, and we can make sure that the course you're applying for is what will help you in your career. Going back the foundation question, sorry, that must have come through when my internet dropped. But yeah, foundation, and the great thing is, what I advise you to do is maybe talk to a counsellor at your school or college, and then also us as well. We can help you decide which route, because every student's different. Every student will need a different route depending on your qualification, which country you come from. So yeah, just talk to them, find out about the advice. In terms of foundation, there's a lot of foundation options available. At De Montfort, we offer 2 types of art and design foundation, one which has English and one that doesn't have English. So yeah, it's totally up to you, depending on your English entry level, which one you take. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So keep your questions coming, and we can answer maybe 1 or 2 more. Jerry, I'll start with you for the next question. In terms of the submission, in terms of submitting a digital portfolio, what's the key factors to consider in terms of the platform to send it in, and what's the best way to send it to you?
Okay. At Lancaster, we've accepted portfolios digitally for about 5 years now. So we have a very well-worked pattern. So we will write to the student and ask them to use Blogspot as the platform. And all students use exactly the same platform. It's a little bit clunky. It's not perhaps the most innovative of blog platforms, but that's the one we ask you to do. So we ask you to use that, submit 20 items, and that can be 2D still images, it can be sound works, it can be video, it can be a whole range of things. And to add text boxes with any explanation that you feel is necessary. So that then comes to us, comes to me as admissions tutor, and I distribute some of these to my fine art colleagues and design colleagues. And we sit down then with the UCAS application form, with the statement, the reference, with your qualifications or your predictions, and the portfolio. So the portfolio is one element in the application. And what I think Dom and Dan would agree, what UK universities are looking for is actually something of a rounded application, where you get a sense that the student, you know, is committed, serious, engaged, that the work has got potential. Dom has said many times that we're not looking for the finished article, and that's absolutely right. Everybody's looking for potential. We're not sure where that potential is going to go, but it's indications that this student will thrive. So back to the question, it's 20 items in a blog. You send the link to us, and then it's looked at alongside the other material that we can understand from your UCAS form.
Perfect. Thanks, Jerry. And Dom, is the same question to you. What are you looking to see from the digital submission?
Yeah, so normally 12 images. That's the main thing with Goldsmiths. We're a little bit more restrictive. I think sometimes students can find it difficult to find the balance between sending too many images and too few images, and us having a slightly smaller submission is not particularly helpful for that, in all honesty. But we like you to try and really focus. But as I say, fine art and design have a really different portfolio requirement. So you've got to look at the specifics, which also will be sent to you whilst you're making your application. We do inform you of everything that's required, including your submission dates and everything else. We don't have a specific platform that we require you to submit a digital submission via, but we do have specific file format requirements. So, you know, all your images need to be JPEGs. So there are all of these quite important little details which you'll need to just kind of patiently read through the instructions and adhere to them. I think what I would say is that we all offer, we all sort of welcome students to interview also via an online platform. And that interview normally is you're required to defend your portfolio. You're required to discuss it, explain your ideas. So again, when you include, so that Hanaka has asked a really good question. Included in those 12 to 15 items does that have to include your sketches and your ideas? And it absolutely does. So it's 12 images in total. Now, you can be clever with your images. You might have made a huge sculpture. You're obviously going to need to take a photograph of that. It'd be very difficult to either bring along physically or show us in any other way. But what you can do is you can take photographs of multiple images within one image, and that becomes one image. So if you're going to show us a sketch, a finished piece or an image of a finished piece, then that can be included in one image. And we also allow you at Goldsmiths to put a small caption on each image. It has got to be very short, so like it's one sentence within which you're kind of expected to begin to explain your work, to introduce your work perhaps. So again, these really specific details can be found on the website and will be sent to you. You're kind of properly informed of them. But the digital submissions at Goldsmiths are JPEGs, 12 images, any format, as in any platform, a blog or even a kind of YouTube link to a YouTube recording of a presentation. There's all sorts of things you can do. Dan, how about you?
Yeah. No, you've said everything I was going to say. I think, summed up perfectly. It's sometimes students will have difficulty uploading it, so we're here to make sure that that you are able to upload it and we can see it clearly. Another thing students always ask is whether sometimes before they submit it officially and formally, can someone take a look at it? And the answer is yes. All of our academics, very friendly, want to help as much as possible, so are happy to speak with you and just glance their eye over it, just to say, maybe give you some feedback before you submit it formally. But so when you're submitting it digital, consider the platforms. We have an upload part of our website, so when you upload it, you can do it on there to make sure that it comes through to us. The worst thing that could happen is if you send it, the file's too big so that it's not received and that there's just no communication. So we want to make sure that it's uploaded through the right channels and make sure that we can receive it. So we've got about a minute left. So one more question for the panelists. Top tips. Lastly, what in a minute, Dom first, what would be your top tips for the perfect portfolio?
My top tip is between now and when you have to create your portfolio, you've got a huge amount of time. If you're currently thinking, oh, I don't really have 12 pieces or 12 images, I can't think of that many things that I'd like to submit. Now is the time. So get out there with your camera, with your sketchbook, as Jerry said, start taking note of the world around you, particularly in this unusual time. I mean, it's quite restrictive, but sometimes those boundaries can be really good for the creative process. So my advice would be between now and submitting your portfolio, try and get as much work under your belt as possible.
And same to you, Jerry. What's your top tip?
Absolutely. Start early. Start early. Document everything that you do. So little notes, experiments, things that you think, ooh, is that any good? Document it. Document everything. And then when you come to putting your portfolio together, you've got a whole array of material to select from and edit. And when you're selecting and editing, get as much feedback as you can from your peers, from your teachers and advisors, even from your nana. Get advice, get feedback, think about what you've got. But if you start early, you'll have more material to work with.
Perfect. Couldn't put it better myself. And Jerry said, get feedback. Make sure that you're confident when you're submitting it. And within that feedback, if you do want a one-to-one session with any of us or any university, just get in contact. That's our jobs. That's what we love doing. We like speaking to you and making sure that you are confident when you're applying, sending in that application and sending in that portfolio. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thanks to all of you for joining. I've put our, the International Office contact details on screen. So if you want to get in contact with us individually, please take down our emails or look on our websites if you want more information on the individual courses. But thanks to our panelists, to Dom and Jerry for joining us today. Hopefully some of you will be joining our universities over the next year or two. And there's a lot more sessions on throughout the week later today, so please join them. And I'll hopefully see some of you at DMU soon. So goodbye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.